When I turned 65, I threw a birthday party for my family. No one came. That same afternoon, my daughter-in-law posted photos of everyone on a luxury cruise. I just stared at the screen and smiled. 3 weeks later, when they came home, I handed her something that made the color drain from her face. But before I tell you what it was, let me start at the beginning. I'm glad you're here. Stay with me until the end, and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. My name is Loretta. I turned 65 on a warm Saturday in June. Nothing extravagant. Nothing fancy. Just a birthday. At least, that's what I thought. I woke up early that morning, before the sun had fully risen over my neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of birds outside my kitchen window. For the first time in years, I felt excited about my birthday. Not because of gifts. Not because of attention. But because I believed my family would be there. My son Brandon had promised. "We'll make it special this year, Mom." Those were his exact words. I held on to them for weeks. I spent 3 days preparing the house. I polished the dining table that my late husband, Frank, had built with his own hands nearly 30 years earlier. I took out my best dishes. The ones I only used on holidays. I bought fresh flowers from a local market and arranged them myself. Nothing looked perfect. But everything felt personal. I baked my own birthday cake. Vanilla with buttercream frosting. The same recipe my children used to request when they were young. As I spread the frosting across the top, I found myself smiling. For a moment, I could almost hear their laughter again. Back when family gatherings happened naturally. Back when nobody needed reminders. By noon, everything was ready. The food sat warming in the oven. The iced tea chilled in the refrigerator. The living room smelled faintly of candles and fresh flowers. I checked the clock. 12:30. People were supposed to arrive at 1. I remember straightening a picture frame for no reason at all. Then checking my phone. Nothing. 1 o'clock came. Then 1:15. Then 1:30. No cars in the driveway. No text messages. No missed calls. I told myself there was traffic. Maybe someone was running late. Maybe the grandchildren needed extra time. I found excuses for everyone. Because that's what mothers do. We fill in the blanks with hope. At 2 o'clock, the food was still untouched. The cake sat perfectly centered on the table. The candles waited beside it. Unused. I called Brandon. Straight to voicemail. I called again. The same result. A strange feeling settled into my chest. Not panic. Not yet. Just confusion. I sat down at the dining table and looked around the room. 6 empty chairs. 6 place settings. 6 folded napkins. Everything waiting for people who weren't there. The afternoon sunlight slowly shifted across the floor. The ice in the pitcher began to melt. Still nothing. No explanation. No apology. No message. Around 3:30, I picked up my phone again. Not to call. Just to distract myself. I opened Facebook. And that's when I saw the photos. At first, I thought Facebook had made a mistake. Maybe the photos were old. Maybe they had been taken months ago and posted late. I clicked on the first picture. Then the second. Then the third. Each one felt heavier than the last. There was my son Brandon standing on the deck of a cruise ship, wearing sunglasses and grinning at the camera. Next to him was my daughter-in-law, Vanessa. She looked radiant. Relaxed. Happy. Behind them were my 2 grandchildren. My sister. My nephew. Even my cousin Diane from Kentucky. People who had all told me they were too busy to make plans lately. People who somehow found time for a 7-day Caribbean cruise. The timestamp said the photos had been uploaded just 20 minutes earlier. My stomach tightened. I kept scrolling. A group photo appeared. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. The caption caught my attention. Family Vacation 2025. Finally together. Making memories that will last forever. I read it twice. Then a third time. Finally together. The words stayed with me. I wasn't angry yet. Honestly, I was still trying to understand what I was seeing. Because families don't accidentally leave one person behind. Especially not on a trip that size. Cruises require reservations, passports, payments, planning. This wasn't something organized over a weekend. This had taken months. Maybe longer. I opened Brandon's profile. Nothing. Then Vanessa's. More photos. Dinner by the ocean. Poolside drinks. Excursions on tropical islands. Every image told the same story. This trip had been carefully planned. And somehow, nobody had mentioned it to me. Not once. I thought back to the previous few months. The unanswered text messages. The family dinners I hadn't been invited to. The times Brandon seemed distracted whenever I called. At the time, I had accepted every explanation. Work was busy. The kids had activities. Life gets complicated. But sitting there alone at my birthday table, those excuses suddenly felt different. Like puzzle pieces beginning to fit together. My phone buzzed. For a moment, my heart jumped. Maybe Brandon was finally calling. Maybe there was some explanation. Instead, it was a notification. Vanessa had posted another photo. This one showed the entire family gathered around a large table on the ship. Laughing. Celebrating. A chocolate cake sat in the center. Someone had written a message in icing. I zoomed in. The words became clear. To unforgettable family memories. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I slowly looked across my dining room. My own birthday cake was still sitting exactly where I had left it. Untouched. The candles were still beside it. Waiting. That's when a thought crossed my mind for the first time. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe I hadn't simply been forgotten. Maybe someone had made sure I wasn't included. And deep down, I already knew who that someone was. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry. At least, not yet. What kept me awake was the confusion. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly above me, replaying the last few years in my mind. Little moments. Tiny things I had ignored. Things that suddenly felt important. Vanessa came into our family nearly 10 years ago. At first, I genuinely liked her. She was smart. Organized. Confident. The kind of woman who always seemed to know exactly what she wanted. Brandon adored her. And if my son was happy, that was enough for me. Or so I thought. Looking back, I can see that the changes didn't happen all at once. They happened slowly. So slowly that I barely noticed. Family dinners became less frequent. Holiday invitations arrived later and later. Sometimes I heard about gatherings only after they had already happened. There was always an explanation. We didn't think you'd want to drive that far. The house was crowded. It was last minute. Reasonable excuses. At least they sounded reasonable at the time. I remember one Thanksgiving 3 years earlier. I spent the morning making my famous sweet potato casserole. The recipe had belonged to my mother. Every year, someone requested it. Every year, I brought it. That year, nobody called. Around noon, I finally reached Brandon. "Oh, Mom," he said. "Didn't Vanessa tell you? We moved dinner to her sister's place." I sat there holding the casserole dish in my lap, still warm from the oven. No one had told me. Not one person. I remember laughing it off, pretending it didn't hurt. But now, sitting alone in my kitchen days after my birthday, I thought about that moment differently. Because it wasn't the only one. There were dozens. Maybe hundreds. Small exclusions. Tiny disappointments. Each one easy to dismiss by itself. Together, they painted a different picture. I opened an old photo album from the cabinet beside my living room couch. Pictures spilled across my lap. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Summer cookouts. Back then, family felt simple. Messy sometimes, but genuine. I stopped on a photo of Brandon at 16. His arm was around my shoulders. Both of us smiling. I stared at it for a long time. Then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. Almost every painful memory from the past several years had one thing in common. Vanessa was somehow connected to all of them. Not directly. Never openly. Just quietly. Like a person moving pieces across a chessboard while everyone else focused somewhere else. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider something I had spent years avoiding. Maybe Vanessa hadn't simply forgotten my birthday. Maybe she had spent a very long time making sure I slowly disappeared from the family without anyone noticing. And if that was true, I needed to know how far it went. A few days passed. I didn't call Brandon. I didn't message Vanessa. And neither of them contacted me. That silence told me more than any argument ever could. By the end of the week, the cruise photos had stopped appearing online. Life seemed to be moving on for everyone else. But I couldn't let it go. Not because of the trip. Not because they missed my birthday. Because something didn't feel honest. One Tuesday morning, I drove to a small cafe about 15 minutes from my house. It was a place I'd been visiting for years. The kind where people still knew your name. As I waited for my coffee, I heard someone call out behind me. "Loretta?" I turned around. It was Carol. A woman I'd known through church for nearly 20 years. She wasn't a close friend, but we had always gotten along. We chatted for a few minutes. The weather. Her grandchildren. The usual things. Then her expression changed. Almost like she suddenly remembered something she wasn't sure she should say. "Can I ask you something?" she said carefully. "Of course." She hesitated. Then she asked, "How was the cruise?" For a second, I just stared at her. "The cruise?" She nodded. "Yes. Vanessa told everyone your whole family was going." I felt my heart skip. I kept my face calm. What exactly did she say? Carol looked confused. Just that she'd spent months planning it. She seemed excited. "I assumed you'd be there." Months. There was that word again. Months. Not days. Not weeks. Months. I thanked Carol and changed the subject. But the conversation stayed with me the entire drive home. Because for the first time, I had confirmation. Someone outside the family knew about the trip. Which meant people had been talking about it openly. The problem wasn't that nobody remembered to invite me. The problem was that nobody expected me to be there. When I got home, I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad. The same kind Frank used for household projects. I wrote one question across the top. When did this start? Then I began making a list. Every strange family gathering. Every missed invitation. Every uncomfortable holiday. Every time I had been left out. The list grew faster than I expected. And one name appeared beside almost every entry. Vanessa. By late afternoon, I wasn't looking at isolated incidents anymore. I was looking at a pattern. A pattern that stretched back years. And for the first time, I stopped asking whether it was intentional. Instead, I started asking a much more important question. Why? Why had my daughter-in-law worked so hard to push me to the edges of my own family? And what was she gaining from it? The more I thought about Carol's question, the more something bothered me. Not the cruise itself. The money. A 7-day Caribbean cruise for that many people wasn't cheap. Brandon and Vanessa had 2 kids. My sister and cousin had joined them. There were excursions, restaurants, and airfare. I wasn't someone who obsessed over other people's finances. But I knew my son. And I knew his situation. Just 6 months earlier, Brandon had called asking if I could help cover an unexpected home repair. A leaking roof. At least, that's what he told me. I wrote him a check for $3,000 without hesitation. He's my son. That's what mothers do. A year before that, I helped with one of the grandchildren's private school payments. Before that, I contributed toward a family emergency fund Vanessa said they were building. Little things. Nothing life-changing. But over time, those little things added up. I had always assumed I was helping them stay afloat. Now I wasn't so sure. That afternoon, I pulled out my file cabinet. Frank had always insisted on keeping records. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every canceled check. At the time, I thought he was overly cautious. Now I silently thanked him. I spent hours sorting through old folders. Some memories made me smile. Others made me uncomfortable. There was the check for the roof repair. Another for school tuition. Several transfers I had completely forgotten about. The number surprised me. Over the past 5 years, I had given Brandon and his family more than $40,000. Not loans. Gifts. No conditions attached. I never expected repayment. But seeing the total on paper felt different. Especially after sitting alone on my 65th birthday. I wasn't angry about helping. I would probably do it again. What hurt was realizing how easily my generosity seemed to be forgotten. As evening approached, I noticed something else. Several larger transfers happened shortly before major family vacations. Vacations I had never been invited to. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe not. I wasn't ready to jump to conclusions. Still, I wrote down every date. Every amount. Every detail. Not because I planned to confront anyone. Not yet. I simply wanted the truth. For years, I had accepted whatever explanation was given to me. This time felt different. This time, I wanted facts. And as I organized those records into neat stacks across my dining room table, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing near the edge of something much bigger than a missed birthday. Something that had been hidden in plain sight for a very long time. And for the first time, I was finally paying attention. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. For weeks, I had been looking backward. Remembering. Questioning. Trying to understand what had happened. Now, I wanted something more concrete. Facts. I made myself a cup of coffee and carried it into the small home office Frank had used before he passed away. The room hadn't changed much. His old desk still sat beneath the window. His reading glasses were still in the top drawer. Some mornings, I could almost imagine him walking back in. That day, I sat in his chair and opened the file cabinet beside the desk. There were folders I hadn't touched in years. Property records. Investment accounts. Insurance policies. Documents Frank insisted we keep organized. At the time, I thought it was excessive. Now it felt like a gift. As I sorted through the papers, I found something I had nearly forgotten. Years ago, when Brandon and Vanessa bought their first house, Frank and I had helped them with the down payment. It wasn't a loan. At least, that's what Brandon believed. But the paperwork told a more complicated story. Frank had insisted on protecting the contribution. Not because he didn't trust Brandon, Because he had spent a lifetime dealing with contracts. He believed family and finances should always be documented clearly. I remember teasing him about it. Now I was grateful. The documents showed that a portion of the property's ownership rights remained tied to a family trust Frank had established before his death. A trust that I still controlled. I sat back in my chair. Surprised. Not because of the money. Because Brandon had probably forgotten it even existed. Maybe Vanessa had never known. For the first time since my birthday, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Confidence. While everyone else had been treating me like an aging relative who could be quietly pushed aside, they had overlooked something important. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't dependent on them. And I certainly wasn't uninformed. The more files I reviewed, the more I realized how much responsibility Frank had left in my hands. Investments. Trust documents. Property records. Everything had been carefully organized. Everything was legal. Everything was current. And most importantly, everything told the truth. That evening, I closed the final folder and looked out the window as the sun began to set. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't focused on what my family had taken from me. I was focused on what I still had. My independence. My records. My options. And a growing feeling that when Brandon and Vanessa returned from their cruise, they were going to discover that the woman they had ignored was not nearly as powerless as they believed. But I still wasn't ready to make a move. Not yet. First, I needed to know exactly how much they were hiding. The hardest part wasn't discovering the truth. It was pretending I hadn't. For the next 2 weeks, I said nothing. No phone calls. No questions. No emotional messages. I simply went on with my life. Every morning, I watered the flowers on my front porch. I visited the grocery store. I met friends for coffee. From the outside, everything looked normal. And that was exactly what I wanted. Because people reveal a lot when they think you're unaware. A few days later, Brandon finally called. His voice sounded cheerful. Almost too cheerful. "Hey, Mom. Just checking in." Checking in. As if 3 weeks hadn't passed since my birthday. As if I hadn't spent that day sitting alone at a table set for 6. I smiled to myself before answering. "That's nice of you." There was a brief pause. Then he started talking about the kids. Work. The weather. Anything except the cruise. Anything except my birthday. I listened quietly. The longer he talked, the more uncomfortable he seemed. Eventually, he said, "You've been doing okay?" There it was. Not concern. Guilt. I could hear it. But I didn't make things easier for him. I simply said, "I'm doing just fine." And I meant it. Because something had changed. For years, I had been chasing connection. Trying to stay included. Trying to make myself useful. Now I was observing instead. Watching. Learning. A few days after that call, Vanessa posted more family photos online. Not cruise photos this time. A backyard barbecue. The grandchildren swimming. Everyone smiling. I noticed something interesting. She seemed determined to present a perfect family image. Everything carefully arranged. Everything carefully shared. But beneath those polished photos, I started seeing cracks. The comments. The timing. The way certain people disappeared from pictures. The way others were suddenly included. It reminded me of someone managing a story. Not simply living one. Meanwhile, I continued organizing documents. Making notes. Building a timeline. Nothing dramatic. Just facts. Dates. Records. Conversations. The truth has a way of becoming powerful when it's written down. One evening, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. A warm breeze moved through the trees. For the first time since my birthday, I felt calm. Not because I had answers. Because I no longer needed immediate answers. Silence was giving me something anger never could. Perspective. And while Brandon and Vanessa enjoyed the comfort of believing I knew nothing, they were making a mistake. Every day they relaxed. Every day they assumed the situation had passed. And every day, without realizing it, they gave me exactly what I needed. Time. Time to see the full picture. Time to understand the game being played. And time to prepare for what would happen when they finally came home and looked me in the eye. 3 weeks after my birthday, the cruise finally ended. I knew they were back before anyone told me. Vanessa posted a photo from the airport. Home sweet home. A few hours later, Brandon called. "Hey, Mom. We're back." His voice carried the relaxed confidence of someone returning from a great vacation. Someone who believed everything was normal. Someone who believed there would be no consequences. "That's nice," I said. "How was the trip?" He laughed. "Honestly? Amazing. Amazing." The word hung in the air between us. Neither of us mentioned the fact that the trip happened on my birthday. Neither of us mentioned the empty dining room. The untouched cake. The 6 empty chairs. Eventually he asked if they could stop by that weekend with the kids. I agreed immediately. That seemed to surprise him. "Really?" "Of course," I said. "I'd love to see everyone." The truth was, I wanted to see them too. Especially Vanessa. Saturday arrived warm and sunny. I spent the morning tending to my garden. Nothing fancy. Just enough to keep my hands busy. Around noon, Brandon's SUV pulled into the driveway. The grandchildren jumped out first. I hugged them tightly. None of this was their fault. They were children. Children only know the version of reality they're given. Brandon followed behind them carrying a small gift bag. Vanessa stepped out last. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. Perfect performance. She walked toward me with open arms. "Happy belated birthday, Loretta." Belated. 3 weeks late. I smiled politely. "Thank you." Inside the house, everyone settled into the living room. The kids talked about beaches, swimming pools, ice cream buffets. The cruise dominated every conversation. Vanessa seemed especially eager to share details. Photos. Stories. Funny moments. She talked as if I had simply chosen not to attend. As if there were no missing piece in the story. I watched her carefully. Not with anger. With curiosity. Because I wanted to understand how someone could be so comfortable pretending. Then something happened. One of my grandsons pulled out his phone. "Grandma, look at this one." Before anyone could stop him, he handed me the screen. It was another cruise photo. One I hadn't seen before. A group picture taken during the first night on board. Everyone smiling. Everyone raising glasses. And in the corner of the image, partially hidden behind a menu, I noticed something unexpected. A folded paper. A printed itinerary. The date was clearly visible. The planning date. Almost 5 months before my birthday. 5 months. I handed the phone back without saying a word. But inside, another piece of the puzzle quietly clicked into place. And Vanessa had no idea I had just seen it. After they left that afternoon, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The house felt quiet again. But this time, the silence didn't hurt. It helped me think. I kept replaying that photo in my mind. 5 months. The cruise had been planned at least 5 months before my birthday. Which meant one thing. Nobody forgot. Nobody overlooked the date. The decision had been intentional from the beginning. I opened my notebook and added another entry to the timeline. Then I stared at the growing list of dates. The pattern was impossible to ignore now. The more information I gathered, the more one question kept returning. Why work so hard to exclude me? There had to be a reason. People don't spend years pushing someone aside without expecting something in return. The answer arrived sooner than I expected. 3 days later, Brandon called. His voice sounded nervous. Not guilty. Nervous. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." There was a pause. Then he cleared his throat. "Vanessa and I have been looking at some home renovation projects." I listened quietly. "The costs are higher than we expected." Of course they were. I had heard similar conversations before. Different wording. Same destination. Eventually he asked if I might be willing to help financially. Not alone. Just assistance. For family. As he spoke, I found myself looking at the stacks of documents sitting neatly beside me. The records. The transfers. The checks. The cruise photos. Suddenly everything felt connected. For years, whenever money became tight, they called me. Whenever life became difficult, I stepped in. And every time I helped, I believed I was strengthening family bonds. Now I wasn't so sure. I asked a simple question. "How much are you looking for?" Brandon immediately answered. Almost as if the number had already been discussed. $12,000. $12,000. The request came less than a month after returning from a luxury cruise. I let that sit between us. Then I said something that surprised him. "I'll think about it." Silence. Long silence. Normally I would have agreed immediately. We both knew that. Finally he said, "Okay." But his voice had changed. For the first time, I heard uncertainty. After the call ended, I sat back in my chair. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even disappointed anymore. I was beginning to understand something important. The moment I stopped being predictable, the balance started shifting. For years, everyone had assumed they knew exactly how I would respond. But now they didn't. And that uncertainty was making people uncomfortable. A few minutes later, I picked up my phone and made a call of my own. Not to Brandon. Not to Vanessa. To the attorney who had helped Frank establish the family trust years earlier. Because before I made any decisions, I wanted every fact in front of me. And what I learned during that meeting would change everything. The attorney's office looked exactly the same as it had years ago. Same brick building. Same waiting room. Even the same framed landscape painting hanging behind the reception desk. Frank and I had sat there many times. Back when retirement planning felt like something far in the future. Now I was sitting there alone. But I wasn't nervous. I was curious. A few minutes later, Mr. Harrison welcomed me into his office. He had known Frank for nearly 20 years. After exchanging a few pleasantries, I explained why I was there. I asked him to review everything connected to the family trust. Every document. Every provision. Every detail. For nearly an hour, we went through records together. Most of it was familiar. Some of it wasn't. Then he opened one folder and stopped. "Loretta," he said carefully, "I'm not sure your son fully understands how this trust was structured." That got my attention. "What do you mean?" He slid several papers across the desk. Frank had designed the trust with one goal in mind. Protecting family assets from poor financial decisions. The trust's assistance wasn't automatic. Future distributions required approval. My approval. Not Brandon's. Not anyone else's. Mine. I stared at the paperwork. All these years, I had assumed my role was mostly administrative. A formality. It wasn't. Legally, I still had significant authority over how certain assets and future financial support were handled. Mr. Harrison continued explaining the details. I listened carefully. The more he spoke, the more pieces fell into place. The requests for money. The sudden calls whenever finances became tight. The assumption that I would always say yes. Perhaps Brandon never realized how much responsibility remained in my hands. But if he didn't know, there was a good chance Vanessa didn't know either. That thought stayed with me. Not because I wanted power. Because I finally understood why keeping quiet had been the right decision. Knowledge is valuable. But knowledge that nobody knows you possess? That's even more valuable. Before leaving, I asked Mr. Harrison one final question. If I wanted to make changes moving forward, would I be able to? He smiled politely. Absolutely. The drive home felt different. Lighter somehow. For weeks, I had been focused on what had happened to me. Now I was focused on what came next. That evening, I sat at my dining room table and made several phone calls. My sister. My cousin Diane. A few other family members. Nothing confrontational. Nothing dramatic. I simply invited everyone to dinner the following Saturday. A family gathering. Just like old times. Every single person accepted. Including Brandon. Including Vanessa. As I hung up the final call, I looked around the same dining room where I had spent my 65th birthday alone. The same table. The same chairs. But this time, things would be different. Because for the first time, everyone would be sitting in the same room. And for the first time, the truth would have nowhere left to hide. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. By 4 o'clock, the dining room was ready. The same room. The same table. The same chairs that had sat empty on my 65th birthday. Only this time, every seat would be filled. I kept the meal simple. Roast chicken. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. The kind of dinner our family had shared for years. Nothing about the evening suggested a confrontation. That was intentional. One by one, everyone arrived. My sister. Diane. The grandchildren. Brandon and Vanessa arrived last. Vanessa walked in carrying a bottle of wine and her usual polished smile. She looked completely at ease. As if she had nothing to worry about. Dinner began pleasantly enough. People laughed. Shared stories. Talked about work and school. For nearly an hour, I said very little. I simply listened. Observed. Waited. Then, as dessert was being served, I stood up. The room gradually grew quiet. I want to thank all of you for coming, I said. Everyone smiled politely. Brandon nodded. Vanessa lifted her coffee cup. Then I placed a folder on the table. The sound seemed louder than it should have. Several people glanced down at it. Nobody spoke. I've spent the last few weeks reviewing some family records, I continued. Vanessa's smile faded slightly. Just slightly. I realized there were some things we should all understand moving forward. The room felt different now. Heavier. More attentive. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of trust documents. Property records. Financial summaries. Nothing secret. Nothing exaggerated. Just facts. I explained how Frank had structured the family trust years earlier. How future financial assistance required approval. How certain family assets remained protected. And how those responsibilities still belonged to me. Nobody interrupted. Nobody expected this. Especially Brandon. His expression shifted from confusion to surprise. Vanessa looked completely still. Too still. Then I said something that changed the atmosphere entirely. Recently, I was asked to contribute another $12,000. A few relatives exchanged glances. Brandon lowered his eyes. I won't be doing that. The room remained silent. Not angry silence. Uncomfortable silence. The kind that appears when people hear a truth they weren't expecting. I wasn't attacking anyone. I wasn't accusing anyone. I simply continued. For years, I've helped whenever I could. I don't regret that. But from now on, every financial decision will be handled differently. I closed the folder. Calmly. Deliberately. Then I looked directly at Brandon. I love you. That hasn't changed. His eyes immediately filled with emotion. But being loved and being taken for granted are not the same thing. Nobody moved. Nobody argued. And for the first time in a very long while, nobody seemed interested in controlling the conversation. Because the story they thought they understood had just changed. And Vanessa was beginning to realize that the woman she had quietly pushed aside was no longer playing the role she had expected. A year later, I turned 66. The date arrived quietly. No grand plans. No expectations. And surprisingly, that made it one of the happiest birthdays of my life. A lot had changed during those 12 months. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But steadily. The way real life usually changes. After that family dinner, Brandon and I had several difficult conversations. Honest conversations. The kind we should have had years earlier. For the first time, he stopped defending every situation and started listening. Really listening. I don't think he fully understood how isolated I had felt. How many small moments had accumulated over time. The missed invitations. The forgotten phone calls. The empty chair at my own birthday table. Some things couldn't be undone. But they could be acknowledged. And that mattered. As for Vanessa, our relationship remained polite. Respectful, even. But different. The quiet assumptions she once made about me were gone. The idea that I would always stay silent. Always say yes. Always accept whatever treatment was given. That chapter had ended. The trust remained exactly where it belonged. The financial boundaries stayed in place. And for the first time in years, I felt completely comfortable protecting my own interests. Not because I wanted distance from my family. Because healthy relationships require honesty. And honesty requires boundaries. On the morning of my 66th birthday, I walked into my kitchen and smiled. There was no giant party. No elaborate decorations. Just a small breakfast planned with a handful of people who genuinely wanted to be there. My sister arrived first. Then Diane. Later that afternoon, Brandon came by with the grandchildren. The youngest handed me a homemade birthday card covered in glitter. I still keep it in a drawer beside my bed. We laughed. Shared stories. Ate cake. Nothing extravagant. Just real. And as I looked around the table, I noticed something. Every chair was filled. Not because people felt obligated. Not because someone organized it. Because they chose to be there. That simple difference meant everything. Sometimes people think the hardest part of betrayal is being hurt. It isn't. The hardest part is realizing you've been giving your love to people who stopped valuing it. But the most powerful moment comes afterward. When you stop chasing approval. When you stop begging to be included. When you remember your worth was never determined by who showed up. On my 65th birthday, I sat alone staring at an untouched cake. I thought I had lost something important. Now I understand the truth. I didn't lose my family that day. I found myself. And that turned out to be the greatest gift of all.